Tina and so let's begin the session. I'll just start the slides and thank you for the introductions. So today's topic, I call it as Unveiling ADHD at the workplace. Why do I calling it Unveiling ADHD? Because many of us are not aware about ADHD. Yes, we know that these are the people who do not have attention or they are hyperactive, they can't sit at one place. But then the details of it, none of us know. You know, I won't say none of us, but most of us. It is said that in US, 4% of every person has ADHD, yet only 20% is diagnosed. How about the world onto these statistics? You can only think about it, can't even imagine it. So on this alarming state of, I can say the statement or state of affairs, I'm introducing, I am commonly known as India's leading psychotherapist. I'm more into mind, subconscious mind, teacher, trainer, and a mentor for the same. And for Safe Space, I've been working with them for almost a year now, and I'm glad to be with them. Knowing Tina through the conversations about ADHD, it brings to my notice, and I'm glad about it, that she is very passionate about the same topic. Eden and Richard are two beautiful people on earth who will be disclosing their journey with ADHD and about the few interactions I had with them. It really gave me more insights about myself, about more of ADHD, and about most of my team members. Yeah, we are not diagnosed, but then we do have certain symptoms. Let's understand mind first, because I talk about mind. Even before that, I would first discuss the difference between brain and mind. All of us know brain is a piece of flesh. Some 1450 grams all of us get. It is located in the skull or the head. Definitely, since it is in the skull or the head, it is a part of the body. We have heard of brain dead situation, but we have never heard of mind dead situation, because that cannot happen. We have heard of brain lesion, but we have never heard of mind lesion, because even that can't happen. Why is it so? As per Dr. John Kappas' definition, mind is a big ball of energy, which is approximately 12 feet in diameter. The center is located in the pit of the stomach where we feel the butterflies. And science is a proof that if you cut my stomach into two pieces, you will not find a single living butterfly. That suggests brain is in the body, while body is in the mind. As I'm saying, it is 12 feet in diameter. The brain is something that operates on the body, while mind is something that operates on the brain. Very clear distinction. Brain is the hardware, while mind is the software. It looks something like this. Yeah, we can energetically only sense it. If I do some activities with you, you can sense this energy ball around you. But of course, that's not the topic of today. But then this is how the research proves it. And there are clairvoyant people who have seen this energy ball 12 feet in diameter around it. Now, let's understand how mind, body, and brain are connected. Now, if there is something in my mind, the signal will directly go to the brain. From the brain, there are some glands or resource centers like pineal, epinephrine, norepinephrine, and stuff like that, that decide whether I have the resources to deal with a particular situation or not. And then accordingly, the signals are sent to the body, either in hands for a fight response in a crisis situation, or to the feet in a flight response in a crisis situation. What happens in terms of ADHD? The frontal cortex or the frontal lobe mentioned here, that gets impaired. Reasons can be genetic in nature, or while birth if the baby couldn't receive enough oxygen, or the environment which is full of distractions. Now, when there is a problem in the hardware or a situation with the hardware, definitely everything that the mind is perceiving, saying, thinking, or instructing the brain to do, the brain is unable to do that. In that situation, when frontal lobe is concerned, the norepinephrine and the dopamine, they are these neurotransmitters are not directly sending their signals to the frontal lobe. The functioning is impaired. That suggests the executive function of the brain is impaired. Now, what is the executive function? Planning, organizing, how to talk about things in a structured manner, or it impairs your strategies for life. So it becomes like, again, as I said, attention deficit hyperactive disorder for a child or a person, and adult later on. If we understand mind, the conscious mind is 10 to 12%. It does a lot of work like thinking, reasoning, analysis, decision making, judgments, implementing those decisions, and then thinking, reasoning again. So this thinking to overthinking zone happens in the conscious mind, while the subconscious is 88 to 90%. And it is huge. It has all our past, present, and future memories or experiences along with the attached emotions, maybe pain or pleasure. But it does only one thing, and that one thing is to look after the survival. In ADHD, or in terms of mind and brain, if we connect both of them, then the conscious mind is connected with the left hemisphere of the brain. The subconscious is connected to the right hemisphere of the brain. When I'm saying left hemisphere of the brain, the frontal cortex is affected in ADHD. So your thinking, reasoning, analysis, that it doesn't reach the hardware, and so the body may show certain psychomotor dysfunctions also. You can feel some joint pains, and if you're walking, you can nudge something and you get hurt. Your foot may twist and turn. So all of that can happen also, as per the mind, body, and brain coordination. While the subconscious is vast and it is connected with the right hemisphere of the brain. That means it is very creative in nature. It looks after the survival. So there are some pros to ADHD and some cons to ADHD. On this note, let me talk about certain symptoms that prevail in the society in general also. I would rather say not just in ADHD. However, we go undiagnosed. The broad categorization happens in three symptoms. They call it inattentiveness, where you are distracted. You will do one thing and the other and jump to the other one. The impulsiveness, you have a clear impulse to talk or do things. Some idea comes to your mind and you would like to implement quickly. If somebody is talking, you would like to cut that person in between. I mean, you can't wait. If somebody is talking, you drift away somewhere else. Some other thoughts come up on your mind. The hyperactivity, if you're sitting in one place for long hours or maybe short hours, initially as a child, you would like to fidget things with. You would like to sketch or draw, or you will have an urge to move around in the classrooms, and there we get identified, the ADHD get identified as, okay, this person is hyperactive. But no, the fidgeting also happens. The mind also thinks. It travels from one zone to another. So all of this is a normal routine process. Onto this note, I would suggest if Richard, who is one of the participants and a survivor of ADHD, if he could open up and share what are the symptoms he felt.
Thanks. Yeah, for me, actually, a lot of it is how I would describe Christmas light wires. So every year you put your Christmas lights away, and invariably when you go to take the box out the following year, they're all tangled up. And when I actually feel this taking control of me, my brain feels like that tangled bunch of wires in my head. And it's very hard for me to actually tease it out and untangle it. And I think the second thing is around impulsiveness. I do think that when before I was diagnosed, there was an element of needing to speak, even if I interrupted someone, just because I was afraid I was going to lose the thought. But from an outward appearance, it wasn't really good behavior. Inward, it was for me to actually get my thoughts out so I didn't forget them. So I had to learn how to deal with that.
Thank you, Derek, for sharing this. Eden, would you like to share some of your symptoms or your situations that you face and got to know, and how did you get to know that you have ADHD? You're on mute.
Yeah, I realized. Okay, thank you. So for me, what I felt was this sense of restlessness. Like being at a desk job was so difficult. Secondly, I think I was having a lot of trouble with detail-oriented work. I could check my work like 10 times, or 15 times, and I'll still have errors, and that was very frustrating. And also the same thing about what Rich said about this. You're so afraid of losing your train of thought that sometimes you just need to butt in before you forget it. Yeah. So sorry.
Yeah, so Eden, how did you get to know that okay, I might have something like this?
So I was really struggling a bit. So I was actually Googling online, like how to get smarter, how to act like a normal person, because I always felt a bit like a misfit. So I went through a lot of that, and somehow by sheer dumb luck, somehow I came across the term ADHD, and I read through the symptoms. It was very life-changing for me because I could finally understand what I was going through. I could resonate with the symptoms and the problems with it. So that was what pushed me to get diagnosed.
And believe me, when you get to know, okay, this is what is happening with you, it's a sign of relief that you get, okay, I have this. Richard, how did you get to know about your ADHD?
Well, for me, it was slightly different. I actually was under a great deal of stress at work and really couldn't put my finger on what was going on. And I reached a point where I was really struggling to function. Now, the interesting thing was that nobody outside could tell. It was all internal. And that was something that I was very happy about because I didn't want people to know because I was really struggling. I actually used something at my office, which was the employee assistance program, where we could actually contact somebody privately to actually speak to them. And that was a godsend for me because I met this therapist who walked me through. And after a few sessions, was able to actually say, you know what, I actually think you may be on this continuum around ADHD. And I'd like you to go and basically be analyzed around that to see if that's the case. Subsequent to that, I met a psychiatrist who worked with me on it. And to be honest with you, like Eden, once I accepted the diagnosis, which took a little bit of time, it was a great deal of relief for me. It really was.
Right. Awesome. Thank you for sharing, both of you. Few more symptoms like, if given a choice, ADHD would work in a time zone like they would like to sleep late 3 a.m. or 2 a.m. and they would like to get up late 11 a.m. Some difficulties also happens when you are interacting with your team because you like to flow. I mean, one idea there, another idea. So that teamwork becomes really difficult for ADHDers. And things like you don't like to read much, you don't like to write much, you can't organize your thoughts into writing. If you start something, you would give your hyper focus to that. This is a point which we don't really get to know in our psychology books also, to quote that. Okay, either they are very hyper focused or their attention is not there. So, if they are starting one work, they'll be completely focused there, and it becomes very difficult for them to, let go of that focus. And once they lose that focus, it becomes very difficult for them to join or do that work again, start that work again. And, I'll just come back to my slides onto this note. Give me a second. And people do not really understand this scale and the quality, especially the mothers, right in the early childhood, they may say, okay, you are sitting idle. I mean, she may not even realize that the child is thinking something and some creative idea is there in the mind, and she will again say, you're wasting your time. Go study, right? And when the child is forced into go study zone, and time and again bombarded for not doing his best or her best and not getting up on time, the file is created in the conscious mind. Through the conscious mind, the moment you go off to sleep, it enters your critical filter, which is the seer, where I've written. Somehow I don't know why this is not working. Otherwise, I would have scribbled through. So I guess the rights to scribbling is not allowed here. Okay. So the file is created on the conscious mind. The file enters the layer of judgment or the critical filter. And there, my mother shouted at me. Is she good or bad? I got a scolding for something or the other, right? The judgment says my mother is not good. The feeling here attached will be, if the mother is not good, maybe you feel angry. And the file goes in the subconscious mind, which is the modern memory, where all your current life records are here. And here you store that encounter with mother in a pain memory event. So the file of mother with the event, I was sitting and trying to do my work, thinking how to go about, or thinking, why am I this way? Why do I feel different than others? And the mother or the parents probably say something or the other. Now the file has anger attached to the file of mother. And now this thing is in the subconscious mind, which is 6,000 times more powerful as compared to the conscious mind. And now the next time, if mother says something, the same thing will happen. The conscious mind will have the file, judgment, when you sleep, mom, good or bad, am I worthy, am I not? And emotion attached, more of anger. File gets updated with another page here, more of anger associated. And when you grow up now, maybe at the age of 30, 40, when you look at your mother, you don't really realize why do you get angry. The situations are from the past. And this is also, this can also result into a state of, I can say, ADHD, leading to a passive aggressive behavior. I'll just open my whiteboard and show you how this works. So all of us have 3 states within us. The adult who knows this is right for me, this is wrong for me. If I do this, I'll progress in my life. Or if I do this, I'll be happy. A parent state, these are the words that our parents or the authority figures said in the past. Now, because of the impairment of the executive functions of the brain, we do not really understand how to reply back, and we get to an argumentative zone where people label it as being argumentative. And here, between the parent and the child, is some kind of tussle in the past. Now, this tussle finally displays in the form of passive aggressive behavior. If you have something like this with your mother, which I just explained, what will happen? Wherever, or all the things, all the relationships in specific, if you feel you get into a relationship, you'll be happy, you'll be doing very well in your life, the adult knows it. The child will jump inside the lap of the adult and start driving the wheel of your car of life. And you will have some extramarital affair, or you will end up into some fighting or some other things. Why? Why is this child doing this? Because there is some problem here, conflicting state here with the parent and child. And it's a very natural phenomenon. It happens to most of us. But with ADHD, it is a little more because of the executive functions of the brain, which is the hardware issue, right? Now, why is the child doing it? Because anything that an adult does, the child knows the parent will be the next person who will be happy. for the adult. So it makes you do things that you should not be doing otherwise. In context to PAV with your father figures, if your fathers judged you there, or you felt they were not there for you, you got into a lot of conflicting zones with them, or they wanted to give you a safe space and couldn't somehow in your own mind. Now, PAV with the father will happen. Later on, you may juggle with jobs. So, PAV with father turns into job issues, right? So, issues with bosses or authority figures is very predominant in ADHD. Teamwork is, as I said earlier, that may not happen. And this is again a part of PAV. PAV is nothing but a kind of self-sabotage behavior that you follow. So reaching office on time, sleeping on time, all of this becomes a kind of issue to you. The absenteeism, um, errors which happen through the body. I mean, the brain and mind are not able to coordinate, and the body sees some kind of errors, right? Or when you are into work, you will be hyper focused. You will notice, okay, this is an important part, that is an important part. You're hyper alert, okay? So all of that is a part and parcel of life in general, plus ADHD more often. So you can imagine if this is happening with you at the back of your mind, where your survival is at stake, you will create a reality which is a distorted reality for you. And later on, depression, anxiety, worry, conduct disorders, oppositional defiant disorders, these are very common situations with people having ADHD. It's funny to say, but if the adults are not diagnosed, we keep treating a person for anxiety or depression, but the problem can be something else. So it's high time that most of us, or all of us, I would suggest all of us get through a diagnosis where we understand what is happening with us, because it gives a sigh of relief to us. Let's come back to the slide. Yeah, loud noises, distractions, all of this an ADHD person can't take. What are the statistics then? What happens to people with ADHD? Poor productivity because of all these situations, right from the childhood. In the initial childhood, you'll be doing really well. In the middle school or high school, the grades go down. When you become adult, you may try to learn some behaviors which may help you with your productivity, but then again, the executive function is not well, so poor productivity happens at the workplace, especially teams are there and the tussles can happen, the conflicts can come up, and it is okay. Loss of employment, 30% people with ADHD are more likely to have chronic employment issues, while 60% are fired from the jobs. People may not even realize that they have ADHD. But this is again from the people who have been diagnosed with ADHD. The statistics are from there. And 3% are more likely to quit a job impulsively because they don't understand what is happening, or they simply get bored. Stress is a part and parcel of ADHD, and 24% of employees are on long-term sick leave due to stress because they feel different. They don't understand why people are not being able to understand them. When people don't understand and say some things like, you are this and that, and they become very sensitive. The sensitivity is very high, and you don't realize why are you so sensitive. Why are you connecting the dots like in a particular manner and creating a reality for yourself which keeps giving you the stress inside. The stigma, uh, again, the stigma is like a social rejection by the peers. They don't get along well and they are rejected, looked down upon. Name calling may happen, promotions can be lost, bullying happens, and job termination. So all these are, researched facts. If you understand the behavioral problems in ADHD and non-ADHDs, then it is like 44.6% in ADHDs. Non-ADHDs is only 2.4. People who are fired from job, more of ADHD, 17.4%. Who are forced to quit due to hostility, 17.3%. Due to boredom, 32.6%. And the boss tries to discipline them, 11.1% leave the jobs because they can't take up authority figures over their head. Authorities, especially those who go by the rule book, who are the bureaucrats, who are not flexible in their approach. While ADHD or with ADHD employees, we need to be flexible because that's how we can utilize their potential. Believe me, they are beautiful people with lot of creativity. I mean, they can create a complete empire for themselves. Richard is one of the examples. Quit the job, has his own corporate and doing really well. I mean, I'll ask Richard to share his experience a little later, maybe on this slide only. But then we have, people who are multitaskers, yet they are very creative, and maybe they have ADHD. We never know. They are hyper focused. The quality and timeliness can happen if we are building upon their skills instead of avoiding them, ignoring them, questioning them. Be very flexible. They're very good in crisis management because they know, okay, they're quick in thinking, so they can easily manage the crisis. Because they are very cautious about what is here and there, they are detailed oriented, so their intuitive power is very strong. And for any company or any organization to understand what's going to happen next, in which department, in which team, with which person, you can utilize the skills of an ADHD. You would know because the intuitiveness is very strong. They are quick starters. As I said, the impulsivity is there, but they know how to implement immediately whatever comes to their mind. I mean, I can go on and on, but then these are the top 5 potential benefits for having an ADHD employee onto your team. So you can always count upon them. Richard, would you like to talk about how you quit your job and how are you progressing in your life with your career now?
Okay, well, I think if I take a step back before I sort of left my career with a large corporate, I think once I was diagnosed, it was quite surprising to me the amount of complexity I could deal with. It was something that, and a lot of the things that you've mentioned already around this idea of not getting as far as I thought I could get in my career, feelings of not being worthy of what I was doing, a little bit of imposter sort of syndrome, that sort of thing was going on quite a bit. But once I was diagnosed and was actually able to sort of manage the situation, it was a lot easier for me. And post that, I got promoted into different positions, actually managing a large number of people as I progressed through my career. So the last, I'd say 15 years of my career was quite different from the first 17 years of my career. It was quite interesting. And it really made for a very rich experience. Though I do think that there's an element of trying to make sure that you play into the strengths of someone like myself. I moved around every 2 years. I moved roles. And for me, that worked out really well because I like to learn new things. So it was really, I was in the right place at the right time, and it worked really well. Upon leaving sort of corporate life, then it's like, well, what do you do? And I had some ideas about what I do in my own business. And so I started that. I also do some charitable work. I do some consulting on the side. I do a number of things because I like to be active and busy, and I like to do different things. And so that works for me really well. But the other thing also is in my own business is managing people just to be aware of whether or not someone might be suffering from something similar to the condition of ADHD, and sort of figuring out how do I get the best out of that person. And that takes a little bit of finesse and really trying to understand what's happening with them and how to actually make it such that you create an environment that they can actually excel in.
Awesome. So, one person who faced these similar situations is now helping his employees with that. Kudos to you, Richard. Would you like to tell me what happens in the mornings with you? Are you able to get up on time and look after your corporate work, or it is a lazy morning for you?
So schedule-wise, I never have any issue. I'm an early morning person, so that's all great. But one thing that definitely happens, and I'll even give an example of what happened yesterday. So I'm working on a consulting project, and I spent about 5 hours working on the paper, and I got to a point where I was like, I just felt like I was hitting my head against the wall. And I'm like, man, I could sit in another 3 hours and I think I'd get about 15 minutes work done. So I just decided, that's it. I'm going to go get some exercise. So I went out for a run. Now, what's really interesting is that I went out for a run thinking, okay, I need to get some exercise. That's it. The run and coming back, all of a sudden, a lot of things that I was working with on this document, plus a few other things, start to fall into place. And so then I'm able to come back and actually do in an hour what it would have taken me probably 3.5 hours had I not gone for the run. And it's just one of these things, it's a little bit of a trick that I use in order to refocus my mind and to help me actually sort out things. I didn't go for the run and think, I'm going to solve this problem, right? That wasn't part of it. I went for a run, had music on, and for some reason, thoughts came in. I was able to capture them in my head, remember them, came back to my desk and was able to be actually quite effective. And I can't explain it any better than that. It's just trying to have a break and do something different in order to help my mind center itself again.
Wow. So, yes, you got to write down, right? Do you feel to-do list work best for you in these situations?
So it's interesting. Early on, before I was diagnosed, and I have some here, I used to keep books. These are diaries. Okay, I've got 30 years of these, by the way. And that's how I managed the situation, because I didn't know I had ADHD, was to help me actually manage my time and my thinking and that sort of thing. I still keep the notebooks, but the thing about it is that what I realize now is that there's certain techniques and things I can use quite easily to help me with situations. Another one, particularly from a corporate perspective, is when you're in a meeting and you feel strong emotion. And as soon as I feel a strong emotion in any interaction with anyone, I realize now is not the time for me to speak. Now is the time for me to listen and also unpack where the emotion's coming from so that I can actually deal with the situation, not necessarily bring the emotion into it, because that's really a problem. And that takes a lot of practice. That's probably one of the biggest challenges I had to overcome, and I have to practice it all the time. And I still am not 100% successful, but it requires a lot of attention.
Yes, absolutely. So you got to have a lot of auto suggestions being an ADHD and keep a self-check on yourself and increase the willpower. That's most important. All right. Thank you, Richard, for joining us for this little conversation. I'll go back to the slides now. Okay, now success strategies. What do we do and how do we do? So how do we create our reality? So if we understand mind or the human body, let's say, the basic unit of human body is cell. Similarly, if we are talking about mind, the basic function of human mind is thought. Each thought is around us because mind is a big ball of energy, 12 feet in diameter. So all the thoughts are around us. Out of these thoughts, onto whichever thought you give contemplation's energy or thinking, reasoning, analysis, overthinking, only that thought comes from potential energy to kinetic energy. As we know, thoughts are nothing but a packet of energy. Energy is of two types, potential energy and kinetic. So all the thoughts are in a potential energy form. But out of those thoughts, if I'm contemplating some thoughts, and these thoughts come into kinetic energy, that is energy in motion. Now, energy in motion is nothing but emotion. Emotion, when it comes to the body, It is displayed to others in the form of feelings. All feelings create my experience to life. All the experiences, when we sleep or when we have experienced something, it goes to the conscious mind first. And when we sleep, it goes into the subconscious mind. Now, the subconscious mind is 6,000 times more powerful as compared to the conscious mind. So, if there is any thought or any experience that has gone into the subconscious mind, there are high potentials that it will turn into a reality. So now, if I can request Derek to do a mild role play for me here. Derek, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, so give me a second. I would like to see you. So I'll stop sharing this part. Okay, hold on.
Don't make it too hard for me, Dr. Kavita.
No, I won't. Okay, so Derek, tell me something about your job profile. So that
My
others can
current role.
Yeah.
So I'm at Safe Space. I'm an account manager, and I primarily deal with the B2B corporate clients in terms of the EAP programs or any form of webinars and workshops that they may have.
Perfect. Now, Derek, if someone with ADHD is there on your team, the accounting will become very difficult for you because the distractions are there, right?
Definitely.
Okay. Now, imagine you are the person who is at the head position, okay, in the accounts department. Now, imagine this person is there and it is, already diagnosed that this person has ADHD. Imagine you are having a thought that ADHDers are, not very focused. They may create a problem, right? So keep focusing on those thoughts. Repeat these kind of thoughts into your mind for 7-8 times, and you can unmute yourself.
Yep.
Yeah, ADHDers are not very focused, so that they may give me some trouble. Okay, give me the emotion that you're getting.
I'll be a bit wary.
Yes.
I would probably hyper focus on whatever they do.
Yes.
Because I as a manager, I probably would know, if they have ADHD, they're probably not so detail oriented in some ways or the other. That sort of thing.
So when you're worried, it is displayed to others in the form of feelings in the body, right? So you are hyper focused by what they are doing, what they are not doing, right?
Yes, that's right.
In this zone, Derek, even I would create mistake if somebody is hovering over me, right? So the experience becomes mistake is there, right?
Yep.
The error
That's
is
right.
already there, right?
Yeah.
And now when you see, oh, the error is there, this becomes your experience, right? And your
Yes.
thought, ADHDers are not focused, they are not worthy, they are not good at work. All of this will go in the subconscious mind. And in your life, all your team members who may have ADHD or symptoms like that, not yet confirmed, even they will create errors, isn't it?
That's right.
Correct. So now de-roll yourself from these thoughts and focus on, I can count upon ADHDers and my team members for whatever they do. Focus there. And I can trust them.
Mhm.
They are extremely focused as ADHD people.
Yep.
They look into the minute details, yeah? They're hyper-focused, I can say. Give me the emotion.
I'll be very positive. To me, they'll be like superheroes. I'll just rely on them on anything that I need to get done. And I'll just pass it along to them and trust that they will be able to do it.
Correct. And how will it get displayed onto your body? You will be focused upon your work rather than,
Yes.
putting your entire focus onto them, right?
It will be very positive.
Correct. And when you trust them, believe me, ADHDers are hyper-focused. They can use the skill of theirs and give you the right results, right accounts, right?
That's right.
And this new experience will then go in your subconscious and become 6,000 times more powerful. Henceforth, in your reality, you'll invite people who are errorless, who are cooperative and helpful in work. Yes or no, Derek?
That's right. Definitely.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Derek. My point here is whatever you give your energy to, only that thought comes into reality. If I have HR managers on my attendees list or senior managers on my attendees list here today, you would know the moment you change your thought, the reality that you're getting in your team will change. That is the only way out. I mean, you can't change your experience, you can't change your emotions or feelings without changing your thought pattern. So the moment you change your thought, reality is different. So thank you, Derek. I'll come back to the tips again from here. So my first tip is, if you want a different reality with ADHD, stop labeling them. Stop thinking that they are not good or they are not focused. They are hyper focused in their ways, which means if they are happy or interested in doing something, they'll be super hyper focused. So utilize that part of their aspect of personality. So how do you create a best possible reality if you are in a senior level position? I may also say, if you are, or if you feel that you have ADHD, if you're diagnosed or undiagnosed yet. There are 7 P's I talk about. We call it power of words. So you got to be, the first P is very positively worded in your approach. If you say you cannot focus or you cannot do something, definitely you are stopping that ability of a person to focus or do some things. ADHD, it is said it is a disease or disorder of can't instead of won't. So they will focus on work if you are giving them positive feedbacks or trusting their strengths. Present tense or present oriented. If you have an ADHD on your team, teach him how to be present in the present moment, how he can increase his ability to be very conscious in the present moment. You can give affirmations like, I pull back all my consciousness from the past or the future, and I choose to happily live in the present moment. The more present they are in the present, or anyone else for that matter, we can always create a reality that we want for ourselves. Plausible, give them tasks that are achievable for them. Don't expect them to do so many things or, a depth of things in one particular time zone. No, they can't. If you want to give them tasks, chunk them, give them smaller tasks or a variety of tasks which they can do, and then build upon that later. So think about the plausibility. Are you giving them a lot of work or work that they can do? So figure out who they are, what they are good at, and then assign those tasks to them. Persistence. Teach them how to keep doing one thing at a time. As I said, for them it is very difficult to stop anything or to start the stopped work again. So yet if they get up on time, like 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. in the morning, or 8 a.m. for that matter, if they get up for 21 days or 1 month, they will have a habit of doing it. Like Richard is, regular in his exercises. For ADHDers, it can be a situation. So how did he achieve that? Through persistence. Personal. Check what are the strengths. How is the person addressing himself? Is he calling himself as his first name or a surname? Like I can say Dr. Bhargav or Dr. Kavita, or I, or simply Kavita. So these are very personal touches for me. So you get to get into a zone, being managers, in a zone where the person feels that you are touching an emotional aspect in his life, plus the personal strengths of that particular person. That will build a good rapport with them, and they will, believe me, if you understand them, respect them, and believe in them, they will do wonders for you. precise, one task at one particular moment, not too many, as I said earlier. And these tasks should be plausible in nature. Practice. The more, ask your ADHD employees, where do you want to reach in another 10 years or another 5 years? Then he will say, okay, I want to see this. All right. How would you feel when you are there? I will feel happy. I will feel grounded. I will feel anchored. Or let's talk to Eden onto this note. Eden, are you here with me?
Hello. Yep, I am.
Hi. Thank you. So, Eden, tell me something about the company that you're forming or trying to work for.
Okay, you mean like in terms of the task, right? How they
Yes. What are you planning in your life? Where do you see yourself after 10 years?
you mean as my employed, right now as a self-employed
As
person?
employment. Yeah.
Self-employed person. Oh, okay. I think because right now, because I work in startups, and in startups there isn't much lines, you have to fill in the gaps. No one's going to tell you that this is the next step you're going to go. No one's going to tell you what to do. But I feel that having ADHD is really very helpful because I get to decide for myself how do we need to grow forward. And I get to decide my time as well. So I think right now we are at a stage that's very exciting because, for example, I plan to do work on a certain segment, right? But because, I'm very passionate, as I feel that as ADHD, I need to believe in something. I need to have passion in something. And because when you work on something that you truly believe in, I think that people can see that. And I think the business is growing in ways that we've never imagined before. And there's new opportunities coming in. And again, because, ADHDers, right, we are more flexible, we are more adaptable. So when new opportunities come in, we can see it for it is, and then we can just say, okay, to tap on this opportunity, this is what we need to do. And then we just tweak. And then, and then we just adapt accordingly. And yeah.
Eden, in 10 years' time, where do you see yourself? Finally, with your self-employment zone.
Where do I see myself?
Yes.
Hang on.
Another 10 years. You have to just imagine.
Wow. Whoa, it's I looking at the trajectory of where we are going, I think it'll be beyond my imaginations. Like I can see us growing into different countries, which we're already doing, even as a new company. So in 10 years, we are looking at like growing the company to a very, very comfortable size. Yeah, like listing a company and stuff like that. Yeah.
And how would you feel when you will be there?
We're like super excited. I think it's something that we are very excited to wake up and work on every day, even though like we are putting so much hours every day, but it's something that we truly believe in.
Perfect. So Eden, at this point, I want you to close your eyes and imagine the same thing and anchor this excitement and whatever you said right now, the feelings.
Okay.
Close your eyes and anchor it. So how about bringing all of that into present moment?
Whoa, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Eden. So that's what I said, ask your employees to imagine what they want in their life, right? And let them anchor that emotion, that feeling, wherever in the body they resonate with it. And then ask them to stay with that feeling, that vibrational frequency. And believe me, they will invite it in their life sooner or later. So this was about the 7 P's. Do we want to take up the questions in the middle or in the end?
Yeah, maybe we can answer some of the questions that we have, and then so I'll probably just read it out, Dr. Kavita, and then you can. So okay, I think the first one is: should I tell one person, let's say a supervisor in charge of me, about my ADHD? Previously, I didn't know why I was struggling so hard, even with something so simple as attending a meeting on time.
So, ideally, as I would suggest, as Richard did, I mean, for 7-8 years, he did not talk. He did not say anything, right? So you got to be very careful about when to disclose, whom to disclose, and in what manner you have to disclose. So stay quiet for some time, but if it becomes very difficult for you, have a one-on-one conversation. And you can take your reports from whichever diagnosis you have been diagnosed with. And for sure, he would understand. Yeah, you can show him our recording, so he'll get to know more about ADHD and help you with the accommodations. I'll be talking about the accommodations in the next slide and how to take it further also.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kavita. I think there's one, which is Dr. Kavita, what does PAB stand for? I think this was from where you sketched out the slide. As a diagnosed ADHD, a lot of what you have shared resonated with me, and I would like to find out more about self-help mechanisms.
Sure. So PAB is passive aggressive behavior where the child in you is showing a kind of aggression towards the parent figures or the authority figures passively by self-sabotaging yourself. So you get into a zone subconsciously where you are sabotaging your own self, not even realizing this is happening. So the adult is not driving your car. If an adult drives a car, you land up in a safe zone and right at your destination, right? But then if a child is driving, what will happen? Nothing but the accidents, right? So the child in us jumps into the lap and starts driving that car for us, and we do not even realize this. Yes, I'll be talking about the self-help tips more in the webinar later.
Okay, thank you. And I think, okay, this is probably more of a to clarify slide. So Dr. Kavita's slide showed that ADHD person has strengths of timeliness and detail-oriented. My understanding, ADHD has no poor sense of time and are not detail-oriented. So please clarify. Yeah, I think I remember which slide that was.
I guess this isn't this the same thing. Slides show that they have strength of timeliness and detail oriented. My understanding has they have no poor sense of time and are not detail oriented. Oh, okay. Yeah. So it is like, it can be either ways. So initially, when a person is there who is in an early stage, he doesn't know what is happening. But later the hyper focus happens. This is exactly what we were not aware of and we do not talk about. Right? So we can always, these are the behaviors that he picks up, that a person picks up in order to manage his life well. But what happens is he will focus there once, and then if somebody, imagine you are studying like you can say a college going student. You are hyper focused and you are studying one particular subject for 15 books for 14 good hours, and your mother is saying, go have food. It becomes really difficult for you to get up in that zone. Okay, so that's the kind of hyper focus. But the moment you get up, you do not know how to sit back again for that. That's the situation.
Yep. So I hope that answered that individual's question. I think the next question, we'll just do one more question before we go back to your slides, Dr. Kavita, would be actually for Eden. So Eden, your executive functions abilities seem to be strong, being able to plan forward and taking plans to move forward. How do you do that?
Yeah, I saw this question from Meili. I was just typing a reply. My executive functions is still something that I'm working on. It's really not great, but I have a team and who is able to complement my strengths and weaknesses. It's not easy to find a team that works well together. It definitely took a while, but once we have that right, we are able to build on each other's strengths and weaknesses. And so I'm saying, I think my takeaway is that I know that I have weaknesses, I know I have strengths, and that's why it's very good to have people who understand who you are, and then you guys can move forward from there.
Absolutely. So with ADHDers, it is very difficult to do their accounting for that matter, right? So they will have a person who can handle accounts for them. They may have a person who will handle the writing of the projects for them, the proposals for them. So, it's just like building a team of their own. So thank you, Eden, for adding that on. So should I go back to the slides now, Derek?
Yeah, let's go back to your slides.
Thank you. So accommodations. There was a question, as I understand, they were asking how to disclose. So just first figure out what is it that is giving you difficulty. What is the exact barrier or the problem's nature of the problem? And what are the aspects of your ADHD that are contributing to that difficulty? Okay, if there is a, super, you can say, super focused task and you're not able to focus there, or there is a workspace issue, then you got to tell, okay, there's a lot of environmental noise here, or white noise or stuff like that, right? And you can't, as an ADHD, figure out what's happening, right? So understand where is your difficulty in the entire problem. Figure out your own solutions, like what all solutions can you have as per your work environment, the style of working, your communication style, special communication between you and the supervisor or the boss that you have, and the job itself. And then implement one solution at a time out of all these. Figure out whether the accommodation which you are expecting or which you already have is meeting your needs or not. Have a meeting with the supervisor to share the feedback, if it is working or not, and how can it work. Implement the necessary adjustments in your work routine in order to sustain your progress. So all of this, as an employee, you can think about before meeting your boss and discussing, okay, this is the situation that I have. The reasonable accommodations that we being employers can offer to the employees are making existing facilities accessible to them, redesigning the jobs or restructuring the jobs for ADHDers. You can be flexible in your working schedules, give them part-time or a modified or hybrid. In these times, there are hybrid situations or work that can happen. It can be physical, some can be online, give them the freedom to have their own schedule. Just tell them, okay, this is what I want and this is the deadline. And rest, let them do it in their own time and space. You can acquire or modify certain equipments as per the needs of ADHDers. Change the test, training materials or policies if you are promoting a person or training a person in a particular job role. Provide some readers and interpreters to them. I mean, for them, it is very difficult to read. So if someone can read out, verbalize for them, it becomes easy for the ADHDers. Reassignment to a vacant position. Don't be very rigid about, oh no, you have been hired for this job and you have to do this only. If the person can't manage that particular job, give them a flexible job or a lighter one. Offer medical leave, work from home, and flexible working hours to the ADHDers. These are very reasonable accommodations for them, and they have a right to be, utilizing them. And how you can have a work-life balance if you have ADHD. Think of the best use of your time and your expertise. If you have time, what can you do? Make appointments for yourself, take up your phone and set reminders and, okay, this is my time or me time, and, have that zone for yourself. Set multiple reminders or prompts. Create a system for project managers, just like Eden was saying. If there's a team and, I'm relying upon them, they are relying upon me. Prioritize and sequence. So just check, okay, 3 things I got to do today. What are they? I mean, whether they are urgent, not urgent, important, not important. If things are there which are not important, not urgent, you can easily dump them off. You don't need to give your attention to that part of your work. Create smart goals for yourself that are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. Set goals for the hour, the day, the week, and the month. As Richard said, he carries a book, right? So have that with you. Create artificial deadlines for yourself. If you have to submit your work till maybe 20th of May, try to finish it off by 18th of May, so that you'll have enough time, because okay, this has to happen, the delay can happen, right? Break larger goals or tasks into smaller ones. As I said, make it very plausible, precise, one thing at a time. Don't be very perfectionist. Just check where exactly are you trying to be very a perfectionist person. And distractions that slow down your productivity. What is it that is distracting you? You can have a distraction list for you. If some thought comes to your mind, write it down on the notebook or notepad immediately. And then think, is it important to think right now? Or can I come back to it in my leisure hour? You can do that for your distraction thoughts. Set the boundaries, what you have to say yes to and what you have to say no to. Be very clear about that. Turn off the computer sounds to reduce the distractions. When you are super focused, even a mild distraction can disturb you from your focus. So be very aware about that. The body double is a technique where you can have some Google documents or slides and some checkpoints where you can have a friend or a colleague having the accountability for you. So what works well with ADHDers is their building upon their strengths and have an accountability partner for them. So have both for yourself. Have a co-working space where it's something like, physically you're meeting a person, and something similar to the body double space. In the long run, cognitive behavior therapies on the subconscious mind, and hand holding proper from a therapist will take you miles. Seek out support and look for encouragement, and give encouragement to people who are similar to you, similar in the situation for you. How do you have a self-care routine? Simplify the routines. Don't take so many habits. One thought at a time, one thing at a time. Have proper nutrition, exercise, play, sleep. All of these are very important. A lot of water, like 4 liters before 4 p.m. every day. You got to have that, because that helps with the medication part. 1 or 2 medicine that you can take if you want, but if you have a therapist with you, that's ideal. Don't pick up a therapist who's a general therapist, a person who is specialized in ADHD. Take that person as a coach for yourself. And there is an organization called ADDA, which is about the Association for ADHDers. You can just look for those storyline applications there. Maintain a journals for your emotions. Like, you can say, okay, date and event, behavior, alternate behavior, personal comments. Okay, this is the date and I behave argumentatively with my boss. My boss said something and my behavior was argumentative. If not argumentative, what you could have done? Okay, I could have paid attention or, stayed calm in that moment and then responded back in the right moment. Personal comments, try to stay calm. So this is how you can have your own emotional check. Have an environment that supports your work style, your space, your energy. I mean, you don't need to be in one room always. You can have a complete 3 BHK for yourself. In one room you sleep, in one room you work, in another room you can create podcasts if you want, and a play zone also. Pictures, objects, notes, quotes, all of these, lovely quotes for your daily motivation. Keep them in eye view. Seek out support and have supportive people around you. This is what will give you a long-term benefit in your ADHD. So this was about the complete presentation. We can take up the questions if we have.
Yeah.
And if Eden and Richard would like to add something, or maybe I can ask Richard if there was one suggestion that you would like to give to people, what would that be?
Just suggestion as in?
Either to the employers or to the people who have ADHD, what would be that suggestion?
So I think from an employer perspective, a lot of what you're discussing here is not much different from how you would treat other employees. And I think it's really important to make this clear. I feel sometimes as a manager and having managed people in a corporate environment as well, is that my job is actually to figure out how to bring the best out in those individuals and get them to be as effective as possible. And I think when you look at anyone in your organization or your team, that's really where your focus should be. And I think from that perspective, you're always focused on that, dealing with anyone, whether they have ADHD or any other type of issue or personal issues that are going on in their life at that point in time, is actually going to make you a more effective manager and make you a much better team. So I think sometimes we have a tendency to carve this out. It's really different, etc. But it's not really when you think about managing a team and how you go about it.
Perfect. Thank you. Eden, you would like to add something?
Yep. I think you said about addressing to employers and to ADHDers, right? So for, let's say for how I manage people, right? I think this is just my take. So generally what I do, right, is I give them a big picture of where we are headed towards. I give them guidelines. And then I give them the space. And then next I also give them weekly, this is where we want to achieve this week. And then I give them a space and then I'll check in. So it's really giving them the space to be creative, because I understand that sometimes they could bring things that I didn't notice because you are in there for too long. Yeah, and then I'll just give feedback. I say you may want to consider doing this. And then sometimes they come up with things that I cannot imagine in the first place, which is great. Or they come up with initiatives that I didn't think of in the first place. Okay, just from employee point of view. And for a personal point of view, I think for me, I took a very holistic view in trying to manage my ADHD. So for example, I improved my lifestyle to make sure that my head is in the right space. So for example, for food-wise, I think I mentioned about nutrition, right? For food, I don't eat things, especially during the working day, I don't eat things that makes me tired or foggy. I also try to exercise before my work so that to help with the restlessness and to help the focus. And also, I try not to take important decisions when I'm tired or foggy. So if I need a nap, I'll take a nap before that. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, so there is one question. Derek, can I take it from the chat first?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So the question says, for job seekers, what type of work environment is better for ADHD, any specific industry or function? ADHDers like to move around, yet they are very flexible in their approach and hyper-focused. Keeping this in mind, I would suggest sales, marketing, that will give them the freedom to be out of the office and do things on their own. And planning positions like, the entrepreneurs or the managerial positions where they can actually give creative ideas and people can implement for them. That's my ideal take on to that. So I hope that answers your question. Yeah, Derek, can we take up the next one?
Yeah, so I think since we are on the chat box, there's another question there to you, Dr. Kavita. Is it okay to be hyper-focused mode all the time in work? When I was younger, it felt fun and stimulating, but now I feel exhausted after long hours of hyper-focus.
So, we, in the childhood, something happens with us and we decide something, we conclude something, and then shape our behaviors in a particular manner. So we need to focus upon that behavior or a modified behavior, I would rather say, as long as it is being helpful to you. The moment you find that particular behavior is not helpful to you, it's time to let go of it. Try to distract now if it is not working for you. Build up emotional connections. I know it's difficult for ADHDers, but you can always try to have one or two people who can be your accountability partners, and you can see how you're faring in your life with those friendships. This may, I guess, give you certain relief.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kavita. So now we're just answering the Q&A. One coming from Jenny Long. Do you have any recommendations for recovering from ADHD-based burnout?
Yes. So learn some meditative techniques. Can we take up Jenny here? Will she like to join us here on the screen? We can teach her. I mean, if we have time, I can teach her emotional management technique where she can figure out what she has to do.
Yeah, I can bring Jenny onto the panelists and then she can answer. Oh, she said not now, not now.
Okay, so just figure out where all the burnout is coming from which aspects of your life, and then have a person who is your coach plan out things for you. Take rest, sleep. I know it's difficult. In the night, you may go to bed and you may not find sleep coming because of your mind racing. But in those zones, we have a technique called EMT, emotional management technique, that you can apply, and or maybe you can listen to some meditative music that will help you go off to sleep. There is on YouTube, you can figure out I am affirmations. So it's like a complete 45 minutes thing where you focus on I am beautiful, I am lovable, or I am, listen to all of that before you sleep. These may help you in recovering from the burnout. Have a holiday, celebrate life. Okay.
Okay, so I think there are a couple more questions. Probably we can answer not in any specific order, but we'll just answer this one. So the question is how to educate ADHD in an organization. I have a staff with ADHD and she doesn't want people to know about her condition. However, because of her condition, a lot of colleagues find it very hard to work with her because she has very structured thoughts and rigid workflow. She's often seen as having lack of flexibility.
Yeah. So this is a sensitive area where slowly, step by step, you'll have to inform, okay, this is what is happening with you, and these are the tests, and this is how the company or the organization is getting impacted. So if she is okay with that, only then you got to disclose. Otherwise, give her some accommodations. I mean, I know she's very rigid. Maybe you can refer to her to your EAP program, and the therapist can help her further.
Okay, thank you.
Flexibility in her life.
Okay, so the next question that we have is, how do you direct yourself to focus on the tasks you need to do?
So it may take some time, like, some practice. Simplest one is, take a tip of the pen and focus onto the tip for 5 minutes, morning, evening. Once you master that 5 minutes, make it to 10. Once 10 is mastered, make it to 15. And then 25, till 25, 30 minutes, you can focus on the tip of the pen. And slowly, you can try doing this with your work that you have, right? And the affirmation, I choose to happily stay in the present moment. As Richard also rightly said, the auto suggestions, you have to remind yourself constantly. So you can do all of these and go back to the work that you have, right? Yeah, they can be off route sometime. Pull back your consciousness, come back and stay focused. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Kavita. Okay, and we have two more questions. One is how to help an ADHD adult who has been abused sexually and physically. I think this is quite a good question because it touches more beyond just ADHD, but rather the trauma probably.
Yes. So for this, I would suggest the person to write one letter to the abuser. Of course, we don't have to deposit these letters, okay? So one letter to the abuser, one to the prominent male figure, and one to your own self who was weak then. So start from here, 3 letters, and this will give you a relief. Do a paper pencil exercise, whatever is there on your mind, write it out, and then do a kind of moonlight meditation with that stuff, or all these pages also. How do we do it? In the night, either the person can go on the top of the house or the balcony and imagine the moon is there if it is not there. Give the intention, all these issues have now left my life. Burn the pages. The ash which is created, either you can, after doing the next step with the ash, just give another intention. All these issues have now finally left my life, and then throw them away in the air or bury them in a flower pot under the mud with the intention that these are being recycled. And then sit in the moonlight, Imagine the light falling upon you from the top of your head till your toes, cleansing all your cells from the past painful cellular memories. Try to fill in, download through that same moonlight, love, peace, and happiness into all the cells in which the void is created by the exit of earlier toxic emotions. So this is a quick tip that I can tell you. Plus, of course, if you're not a therapist, then you can do this and then refer the person to the EAP team of therapists. So they can be deeper traumas also. And we need to take up a trauma-informed care therapy there. So this we can do.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kavita. And I think we have one that is quite interesting, is probably more of a safe space question. How can we get diagnosed with ADHD? Does Safe Space provide that service with counseling? So Safe Space, we don't do the ADHD assessments. However, I believe there are a couple of therapists available on our platform who of course may be able to do so. Otherwise, you can definitely just Google a number of ADHD centers if you are based in Singapore, and get yourself an assessment.
Yeah, so I would add on, Derek. Getting an ADHD assessment is very simple. It can happen online also. So we have certain tests, like 2-3 tests, which we can take up, and a person can book a session. We do it also online. I have my team also with you on Safe Space, so we can do it. That's not a very big deal. In Safe Space, we can do it. Okay, let's go to that.
Okay,
Okay,
and let me just look at the questions. Okay, hi, I'm a medical doctor and work in internal medicine. I want to ask for accommodations, but unsure what I can ask for. Irregular working hours and unstructured environments are the norm. I don't want to do anything else if possible. Do you have experience advising employers of medical doctors or on accommodations?
I'm afraid to say we don't have that much experience, but just figure out again, as per the slides, what is it that is bothering you? Which part exactly? Is it about the working hours or something else? So if it is about the working hours, ask for the flexible working hours. Tell them, okay, this is the time slot where I am available, and then make sure you are available that particular time, right? You can get attached to hospitals instead of working full time there, and have your private practice if possible, right? So that attachment will, of course, will be like a flexible hour for you. So that can happen. You can have a tie-up with another, many hospitals, and then figure out how to, move ahead. Maybe we can discuss it with a one-on-one session, in a one-on-one session where we can understand what is troubling you most, and then help you figure out.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have a few more questions, and then I think we also do have a feedback, which we do hope that everybody will be that's on the call can answer later on. But just finishing this off would be, my staff with ADHD repeatedly writes down to-do lists. She kept writing compiled task lists, but the work doesn't get actualized. What can she do about it?
Build upon the willpower. And how do we build upon the willpower is again EMT. Since I have, who would like to volunteer? Derek, can we teach this technique? It's very helpful. Can we do this?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so who would be the volunteer here? Richard, Eden, Derek, Tina? Anyone?
Probably let's invite Tina. Tina,
Tina.
are you?
Because Tina can help others also, right? Okay. So Tina, please unmute yourself and take your left palm and do this. Okay. Okay. Before this, I'm going to ask you a question. Imagine you are a person with ADHD, right? And now I'm asking you the question: how much is the willpower that you have to implement what you make a list for? How much is the willpower out of 10? 10 maximum, 0 minimum.
0.
0 willpower. Okay, perfect, Tina. So left palm and right 3 fingers, and you're going to rotate it in a clockwise direction. Okay, when I ask you to blow off, what you got to do is do this, put it on your thymus here, and blow off 7 times. Okay, got it? Remove your specs. And you
Can't
can
see you.
close your eyes. Close your eyes.
Oh,
Repeat after me. Even though
even though
I do not have the willpower
I do not have the willpower
to actualize my work,
to actualize my work,
I still choose to
I still choose to
heal and integrate
heal and integrate
that part of me.
that part of me.
I love and accept myself
I love and accept myself
as I am,
as I am,
even though
even though
I do not have the willpower
I do not have the willpower
to implement my work,
to implement my work.
I still choose to
I still choose to
heal and integrate
heal and integrate
that part of me.
that part of me.
I love and accept myself
I love and accept myself
exactly as I am,
exactly as I am,
even though
even though
I don't have the willpower
I don't have the willpower
to do the task,
to do the task.
I still choose to
I still choose to
heal and integrate
heal and integrate
that part of me.
that part of me.
I love and accept myself
I love and accept myself
as I am.
as I am.
Perfect. Blow off 7 times. Put your hands on your thymus. Yep. Yes. Blow off 7 times. Keep your eyes closed.
Okay, myself.
Take deep lung filling breaths.
I think I'm done.
Perfect. Open your eyes. Tell me how much is the willpower now? 10 maximum, 0 minimum.
Maybe 5.
5. Right. So if I do it again, she may turn up till 10. Okay. So this is one round. So ask your employees how much is the willpower, and then build upon this emotional management technique till the person reaches 10. So this is a very quick tip and first aid of all the therapies. So you can do this. Thank you so much, Tina, for joining us.
Thank you, Tina. Okay, and I think we only got about 4 minutes left, so we'll just take one last question before we do the feedback. So, Dr. Kavita, can ADHDers be successful in all career paths or vocations?
Yes, if they have an accountability partner, if they are working in a field which is of their interest, which is their strength area. So I can say yes.
Thank you. I think that's also a very strong testament for both Eden as well as Richard here, who, the entire life ADHD, they probably had it, but only got diagnosed at an older age, and they have, been successful now. So I think definitely that's possible.
So as I said, Eric, 20% of the population is not even diagnosed with ADHD. Only 20% is diagnosed. So we can see, people are roaming around and they're still successful, right?
Definitely.
Oh, that's
Probably a bit more difficult for some of them, but definitely it's possible.
Yes, it's possible.
Okay, so I think that is pretty much the end. Dr. Kavita, could you probably flash your last slide, which is the feedback slide? For those attendees who are still on the call, if you don't mind just sparing us a couple of minutes, you don't have to answer it right now, but just to show you the QR code, which you can then answer. It's just a series of questions so that we do hope to do more of such webinars for everybody in the future, and we really want to know ways to improve. So you can happily just scan this and answer it after this session. But I think with that said, that's really the end. And I mean, personally, like I said at the start, it is a very interesting topic for me, and definitely something that I'm very keen on learning a lot. And I think I learned quite a lot from Dr. Kavita, as well as the sharings from both Richard and Eden. Inspiring, I would have to say. I think it's inspiring to note that people with ADHD, it's not the end of the road. With a lot of mindfulness or the recommendations that Dr. Kavita has shared, definitely we can all get through this if you have it.
Derek, I would like to add on. It's the beginning to a new end. It's a beginning to a new end. It's not the end.
Definitely. And for those HR managers here, if you are keen to find out a little bit more about ADHD or topics around mental health, definitely you can always just reach out to the Safe Space team at contact@safespace.sg. And yeah, we would love to bring this topic to everybody in the workplace, because like we did mention at the start, ADHD can contribute as well to anxiety, depression. Sometimes people just think they're stressed, they're burnt out, but there's other causes to this, right? And Tina, do you have anything to add before we probably end off the session?
Thanks, Eric. No, not too much. Just that if you want to follow us on Facebook as well, and if you want to in any way volunteer, or you want to bring us in to conduct workshops for your parents, knowing that it's not just employers and yourself as employees, but how your employees are also parents, and they may have ADHD children. So in the area of parenting and supporting that, you can also reach out to us at Spark. We have all our contact numbers at the website, spark.org.sg. Yep. As well as if you want to partner us in any way, we are looking to grow and upscale. So we are also looking for financial support or volunteer support, manpower, resources in whatever way. So do reach out to us if you are able to. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Tina. So I think there was one question just now with regards to whether we can have the slides. So we have recorded this session. We'll make it available. So if you ever just need to revisit whatever we spoke about today, you can just take a look at those videos that will be available on the Safe Space platform. Okay, so thank you so much, everybody, for this lunchtime session. I hope that you have been eating something along the way. So have a pleasant day ahead.